Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Naaman of the DC Camp, Branch of Great Millstone, back for another video. But first and foremost, call all Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Rikahodash, and of course, once again, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, all right, who deserve double honors and rule well. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways, all right, pushing the truth across the four corners of this earth, aided by, of course, the numerous amount of videos that are uploaded for everyone's edification. All right, and it further spreads the truth across the four corners. All right, because time, as we know it, and as the prophecies dictate, is growing short. But here, we're going to take time to point out something that everyone should know by now. As you know, several years, well, actually, it was last year when the last time this went up before a court. And this has to do with the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. All right. And let's be not riot, massacre, because they like to mislabel shit when it comes to us to kind of soften it, you know. But no, this was a massacre. And this is one of, they always use that excuse, well, you didn't live through slavery and shit like that. Well, in this case, you had several that were still alive when this was brought up initially, that were survivors, all right, and so they pulled out new excuses out of their ass, all right, and last year to the point where was it the Oklahoma Supreme Court just said, you know what, we're not gonna address this. They just flat out said, fuck it, in so many words. Well, this young lady here just passed in May. She was 111 years old, Viola Fletcher. So that's what this video is going to be about. They do everything they can to either erase or alter our history. And apparently, they're not sorry. And they tell you in so many ways they don't give a shit about the past, present, and if it gets to it, the future also. All right, which we know that it's not, and it's not long left, thankfully, in America. Like I said, time grows short, and they know this. That's why you're seeing things flow the way they're flowing now. All right, but anyway, let's go ahead. This is Professor Black Truth. Let's go ahead and get the copyright disclaimer. And it says under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use of purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, personal use tips to balance in favor of fair use. And I have to say, which we're going to get to, I don't want to try to jump the gun, but a lot of you people that know of the Hebrew Israelites, all right, we've been trying to tell you, yes, these things are fucked up that happen like this. All right, all the more reason, all right, we're trying to tell you there's a spiritual component to this. All right, and that if not addressed, this will continue to happen. All right, having said that, let's go ahead and roll the video.
Hello, soldiers. I'm the professor, and this is the moment of truth.
My name is Viola Ford Fletcher. I'm the daughter of Lucinda Ellis and John Wesley Ford of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm the sister of Hughes Van Ellis, who's also here today. I'm a survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre. 2 weeks ago, I celebrated my 107th birthday. Today, I'm visiting Washington, D.C. for the first time in my life. I'm here seeking justice, and I'm asking my country to acknowledge what happened in Tulsa in 1921.
And I said that last little bit, so hopefully you'll understand now. Supposing this was one of those Holocaust survivors, all right, that place would have been crammed. See, when we bring up scriptures like Jeremiah, let me get that real quick. 15 and 5. All right, you begin to understand. See, that's why we're trying to educate our people. All right. And heading, of course, the Most High will not relent. All right. These are the curses that were put upon us, and as a result, this is Jeremiah 15 and 5. For who shall have pity upon thee, O Jerusalem? We're talking about the real Israelites. The fake, fraudulent ones, everybody's trying to kiss their ass. While passing laws, well, you better not question these people. No one finds that strange. Jeremiah 15 and 5. Or who shall have pity upon thee, O Jerusalem? Or who shall bemoan thee? Or who shall go aside to ask how thou doest? These curses, as it says in Deuteronomy 28 and 46, they identify who is who. They will cleave unto us as a sign, as the scripture says. Those people own, those pretenders, I call them the great pretenders. Over there in our land now, they own the banking system. And as a result, the world governments have to bow to them. Yeah. They do not fit the prophecies. All right, they do not fit the curses. All right, let's continue.
Viola Ford Fletcher has passed away. This morning's briefing is not going to be an obituary for her, and while we are certainly going to pay honor to this grand lady, it's not going to be your typical tribute. I'd rather speak about the significance of what this woman stood for and how she came to prominence in the first place. The go-to lie that anti-black racists love to hide behind as their excuse for opposing reparations is, it happened so long ago. There's no one alive today who was a slave. Well, when it comes to people like Viola Fletcher, you can't play that game with the Tulsa Race Massacre, because there are survivors alive today. But what did the courts say when these people presented their case? They said, well, it happened a long time ago. It just goes to show these white supremacists do not deal in good faith, and only a fool takes them at their word. If they weren't saying, well, no one alive today was a victim of such and such, then they would be saying, well, it happened a long time ago, so even if you were a victim, it was so long ago. These same racists say things like redlining and such were outlawed in the 60s. So these things don't affect black people. They haven't affected black people in generations. Black people being unable to access real estate like everyone else, well, that's just black people's own fault, because the banks aren't redlining, except that they are. In what was pretty much the one and only good thing the Biden administration did, the DOJ exposed that there have been banks from coast to coast engaged in open, blatant, targeted redlining of black neighborhoods and black loan applicants.
Yes, sir.
So no, redlining isn't some relic of the past. It's something that never stopped and continues all the way to the present. But white society denies it. They have to. And whenever you present the facts to them, rather than say, oh, this is still going on, redlining is still happening, well, this is an injustice. I mean, this is a relic of the Jim Crow past. We got to get rid of it. Black people are being held back. I mean, we didn't know, but now we do, so we need some changes, right? That's not what they do. Instead, they immediately try to change the subject. That's the only change they want to make. But the truth isn't buried so easily. Viola Fletcher, along with the last surviving members of the Tulsa Race Massacre, went before the entire world and demanded what they were due. This woman was already over 100 years old at that point. A lot of other folks, most others in fact, would be in retirement or at the very least saying, I can't take up any more fights at my age, but not her. She was determined to fight until her dying breath. The descendants and the sympathizers with these racist white murderers, they're the very people we're having to contend with today. When they say, y'all need to forget about all that, what they're saying is you need to forget about the crimes that we committed and the punishment that we earned.
There you go.
Well, we're not going to forget about either one. The demented math that these anti-black racists use is that in their minds, they're running out some sort of clock. That's how they see it. Well, if we just make sure that we stonewall these black people
until they
enough,
die,
well, sooner or later, time is going to run out for them. That's what they think. Because they declare, well, we're putting a statute of limitations on these things. In their minds, they think that we're going to abide by that. But we won't. The old black people who were the original victims of these anti-black crimes, well, those people will die out, and the young ones will eventually forget. That's what they think. And in time, all of these crimes white supremacy committed against foundational black Americans will be forgotten, along with white supremacy's undeserved advantages that were built upon these forgotten crimes. Except we're not letting that happen. We're not letting them memory hold it, and we're not letting them proclaim that they're just going to bestow innocence on themselves and say, well, we say that it was so long ago, so it's a dead issue. We're not going along with it. Miss Viola Ford Fletcher didn't care how much time had passed. Her parents were gone, her siblings, virtually everyone she had ever known. A century had passed, but she was still pursuing justice, because evil can't just be disapproved of, you also have to fight it too. Carolyn Donham, whose lies led to the torture and murder of Emmett Till, was allowed to remain free, and whenever the white authorities claimed that they needed additional evidence, well, we just can't move forward without this or that, whenever black people brought them that evidence that they claimed that they needed, they would then just say that they needed something else, something more, or that now the very evidence that they wanted was no longer sufficient. Do not ever let these racist pieces of trash tell you that this is about statutes of limitation being expired or about perpetrators being dead. The Nazis have been dead since forever, and the Jews are still getting reparations, even in the U.S. where the Holocaust didn't happen.
Yeah.
During the Me Too...
Yeah, how come that's not brought up? That shit happened over in Europe. All right, why does the U.S. owe anything to them? Constantly giving, I think they brought out a stat, since the 60s, the U.S. has given $1.6 trillion to them motherfuckers. At the tune of, when it averages out, it's like $45 million a day. Yeah. And we just learned that, I was watching a video where they have, since 2008, some of the, Homeland Security, they have it listed when you go to the site as it being headquartered in it's a branch in Israel. And they've got legislation now trying to merge the two. Yeah. So they're serious when they say 50 states, one flag. All right. Was you incorporate the Israeli flag with the American? Yeah, yeah. And all you want to hear, all you hear is Russia Gate and all this shit. I mean, you really got some naive, stupid Edomites, so-called, Americans. Let's just put it like that. They actually believe that they have something positive to do with the scriptures. That's their book. Wow. And in the meantime, because they're so delusional, they're letting someone steal their beloved America from them. It's been a ploy all along. But this is white on white crime. It's just that we're captives here, you know. And as such, we should hasten for this bitch to be destroyed. Isaiah 51:14. All right. This is what we should be praying for. Because what's coming down the pike in the not too distant future, you thought you thought you knew what slavery was. There's a reason Daniel 12:1 is in the scriptures. There's a reason why Isaiah 13th chapter is in the scriptures. There's coming a time like there has never been. Why? Because this devil is trying to hold on to what he stole and murdered for. All right. So how do you think he's going to conduct himself? 2nd Ezra 15th chapter, 2nd Ezra 16th chapter, 2nd Ezra 13 and 31. Kingdom against kingdom. In fact, let's get there real quick. This is what's coming. Quickly, I might add. This is 2nd Ezra 13. Let's scroll on down here. All right. It's getting bad out here. All right. 2nd Ezra 13:31. And one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. All right. 32, and the time shall be when these things shall come to pass. All right. And the signs, it mentions this in Matthew 24th chapter. All right. The signs shall happen which I shew thee before, and then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. This is all build up to that time. All this is happening. All right. The signs. Shit is happening like never before on this planet. Signs in the heavens. What's happening out there in space. The turmoil here. The uprisings. All right. Plagues, manufactured plagues. All right, because if you think we're done with what we went through 5 years ago, no, it's coming back.
Hysteria. All it took was an opportunity to scapegoat some black men, and these white legislators changed laws overnight to extend the statute of limitations. They changed that. And then they prosecuted people under those very brand new laws that they wrote, which was the proof that they already knew in advance who they were going to use those laws against. So this isn't about any of those excuses. They only offer those phony claims when it comes to us. The rest of the time, they can't wait to write some new laws that allow them to do whatever they want to do. Statutes of limitations are never a problem when it's something they want. And perpetrators being dead isn't a problem either. What's going on here is not a matter of law. The law is clear. This is about I'm white and I say so. In any other instance, for any other group, there would be legislators tripping over themselves to author legislation to authorize not only reparations, but to also honor these survivors. We don't have political representation, though. If we did, they would be on it. This is why I get furious thinking about those political backstabbers in California, the so-called Black Assembly Caucus, who laughed in the faces of their own black voters when it came time to vote on a reparations bill, and in many cases, these are black folks who they know, people who they live in the same area with. When these bootlicks to white power mock reparations, they're mocking the lives and the memories of people like Viola Fletcher. Isn't it interesting that the cowards, bootlicks, and sellouts who are always the first to say, but what about black-on-black crime? They're silent at times like this. They would never dare try that when talking about people like Viola Fletcher. When you talk about the survivors of the race massacres or even the remaining activists from the civil rights movement, why is it that these cowards today who are always the first to say, what about black-on-black crime or racism isn't really a problem anymore, how come they're silent all of a sudden? Because they're liars and they know that they're lying. The attorney representing the survivors of the Tulsa race massacre was with Miss Fletcher a few days before she passed. He said, I saw that Mother Fletcher didn't talk like someone who was ready to go. She wasn't done. She was tired because this fight is exhausting, but her spirit was still in it. In 2023, she co-authored a memoir with her grandson titled, Don't Let Them Bury My Story. This woman fought until her dying breath, And through her memoirs, she leaves a record of what happened, but also leaves a demand that we not abandon the fight. Don't tell me there's no racism in America. Don't tell me that America isn't a racist country. It's damn sure not a just country. Don't tell me that black people are our own worst enemies either. And
there you go. You damn straight it's not a just country. Let's get some more scriptures concerning that. All right. One of my favorites right here. This is going to be Psalms 43:1. It says, "Judge me, O Most High, and plead my cause against an ungodly nation. O deliver me from the deceitful and unjust man." And what does it say in Sirach 10th chapter about why this kingdom is going to change hands? Let's get that real quick. This is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, and let's go down to 8. And it says, because of what? Unrighteous dealings, injuries which we have suffered, and they do not want to redress. All right, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So it's over. We're just, that's been written, and now it's just being played out. All right. Jeremiah tells you there's no healing. Well, that's Nahum. Hold on. Let's get that real quick. The bloody city, which America is. Nahum 3. Let's see what verse it says. It says, woe to Nineveh. And this is synonymous with all our captivities. All right, you have to understand. Babylon, Nineveh, ancient Egypt, America, the Greek captivity, the Hellenization of our people, ancient Rome. This is the revived Roman Empire that we're in now. All right. Let's see. In fact, let's start at 4. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, which is America, the mistress of witchcrafts that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. And that's going to culminate in what? What's going to happen in Revelation chapter 17 chapter. All right. Behold, I'm against thee. Also, you got to factor in Isaiah 47, because these, which they still happen, of course, because they're still trying. They see that they're going down. So Isaiah 47 chapter will factor in also. All right. It says, behold, I'm against thee, saith the Most High, the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will shew the nations thy nakedness. What's part of her nakedness? The things that they have done, all right, to us, primarily being the real Israelites. But America has screwed over their supposed allies. That's something, Revelation 17 again. All right, what's going to happen as a result of that? They're tired of America. They're tired of the bullshit. All right, the world is tired of the hypocrisy. They're angry because of they became drunk with the wine, meaning the doctrine and philosophy, aka democracy. All right. Again, behold, I'm against thee, saith the Most High, the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will shew the nations. All right, so you're being exposed, thy nakedness, and the kingdoms, thy shame. So nice, it said it twice. And I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile. All right, and will set thee as a gazing stock. And that's what's happening. People, you read some of these comments, some of these videos, people from other countries are saying, God damn, America's fucked up. All right? Because it is. And they see this. But unfortunately, a lot of our people, they don't. They'd rather stay here and be niggers and whatever else the white man calls them, and they take pride of it to denigrate them. Yeah, this is the sad state that our people are in. But again, these, uh, hey, this is punishment. This is doesn't happen in a vacuum. Uh, like I say, it's a spiritual component to all of this. All right, gazing stock, and it shall come to pass that all they that look upon thee shall flee from thee, and say, Nineveh is laid waste. Who will bemoan her? Whence shall I seek comforters for thee? All right. Let's see. Uh, Maybe it was one. Hold on, that I was looking for. God's wrath against Nineveh. All right. It'll come back to me later on. Let's go ahead and finish this out.
Don't even think to tell me that white supremacy is not the biggest problem we face. Because for over a century, you have the white media, the government, the courts, and thugs on the street who all banded together to commit a localized genocide, and then they all colluded together for a century now to protect the perpetrators from punishment and to deny the survivors the reparations that they're owed.
Yes.
And they didn't do it based on law. They did it based on white fiat. At this point, Leslie Benningfield Randall is now the only living survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre. She also has been continuing the fight. And that being the case, you got these people who are very elderly, and yet their spirit is as fierce as it was in their youth. They have not forgotten who and what they are. They also haven't forgotten who the enemy is. People like Miss Randall and Miss Fletcher are stand-ins for all of us. The justice that they were denied is just another example of the justice we have been denied as a people. And I, for one, don't think it's any kind of coincidence that people like Miss Fletcher or Miss Randall are still alive and still fighting 100+ years later. I don't think that that's some happenstance. I think that that's the hand of the ancestors working and making it very clear this is the fight that they want us to continue. It is no coincidence at all that when we dug in our heels on reparations and made it a major issue, all of a sudden these legislators, they felt like they had to at least pretend as if they were giving a hearing to the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre. They had to pretend as if they were listening to these elders. And make no mistake, that's what people like Viola Fletcher and Leslie Randall are. They are elders. Why? Because they did something for the next generation. That's why. They didn't just sit back and say, well, at this point here, what am I going to be thinking about? Retirement? Some sort of payout? What good would that do me? As far as they were concerned, a great crime had happened, and the perpetrators couldn't be allowed to have either the favorable judgment of history or the idea that they had run out some sort of clock. They made it very clear this task was being handed over to the younger generation to pursue. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Never forget the evil that we are contending against. Never forget the crimes and atrocities that have been committed against us and who it was who committed them. But most importantly, never forget people like
a super centenarian. All right. Now let's get some of these comments. I will not ever forgive nor forget the atrocities America has forced upon my people. That's good. That's good. That's good. All right. Rest in peace, Mrs. Viola Fletcher. 111 years of resistance. All right. Shame on demonic anti-black white supremacy, Anglo-Saxon America, which they're not the true Anglo-Saxons, but I understand what you're saying. For not giving reparations to the Tulsa massacre victims. Well, you got to understand who you're dealing with. All right. And yes, kudos to Miss Fletcher. She fought long and hard. But you have to consider, too, where, you're, they said elders, all right, in age, yes. And again, she fought a long, hard fight. But you got to consider also there are those that are out there trying to tell you and trying to help you connect the dots as to this. Remember I said from the onset, there's a spiritual component to all this. And we're trying to help you connect the dots, link the two together about the scriptures and what's happening to us as a people and how that identifies us, all right, in the scriptures and as to who we are, all right. But a lot of you don't want to listen because you still got that, that worldly Salakia. You got that world view with everything, and therefore, of the world. You don't want to be that. Rest in paradise. Reparations are owed, and the longer they wait, the higher the interest. It was 43 trillion, now 45 trillion. See, the thing is, we understand that we're not going to get reparations because of what? Remember, I read Psalms 43 and 1. Let's go back and let's go to Psalms 71 at the top again. All right. Let's see. Psalm 71 and 4. Deliver me, O Most High, my power out of the hand of the wicked. Psalm 64, right? Out of the hand of the unrighteous and cruel man. This is who you're dealing with. At every turn, he opposes you when he knows he's been wrong. And they make a good point about compensating everybody else. This has come up lately in several videos. They made it a point to compensate. And I don't have any, let's be clear, I don't have any problems with what they did. But you stopped at us. Why? All right, when you, we understand in the spiritual sense what's going on. That's what I was telling you. For you people, you just don't want to listen. All right, but they go the extra mile when it comes to us. Mm. 5, and this is what, again, talking about the big picture, this is goes to why. Verse 5, for thou art my hope, O Lord God. And his name is Yahweh. Thou art my trust from my youth. All right, a lot of you don't even know who your power is. You just took this idol that was presented to you from the time of slavery and you've hung on to it since. Because Massa told you that's God, and it just happens to look like him. That's his son. The heavenly host, they look like me. Remember that. The level of psychological damage done to our people. Whoa. But you keep bucking against people that are trying to actually help you. All right? Out there on the highways and byways where the scriptures tell us to be, because it's such a vast cross-section of people, because we were scattered amongst all people, not just the hood, where, let's face it, what's in the hood? Dead, hey, Proverbs 21 and 16, the congregation of the dead. So why would we want to be concentrated there? An effort and futility. They have access to or are able to view the videos. But what do? They take it as entertainment. So, oh well. They have the capacity to come and listen just like everybody else. And instead of being foolish, all right, out for a laugh, to try to be serious, no. So they just bring, shit down on their own heads, Hey, oh well. But anyway, let's go to another video here. What did your, the one you voted for. What did he say about this?
Hello, everybody. It is me, Demetra K of the Demetra
Your
K Show.
so-called first
And
black
I hope
president.
that you are having a fabulous day on this Tuesday afternoon, morning, depending on where you are. Of course, again, if I didn't already say, we are on the African Diaspora News Channel. So I'll be here with you for about 45 minutes. I always try to cut it down, but somehow I end up going over. So I should say we are here to talk about Obama being called out by me for giving out sympathy instead of a reparations check to Tulsa Massacre survivor, mother Viola Fletcher, who passed away yesterday at the age of 111 years old. Of course, I'm going to show y'all a couple of videos to kind of go along with what I'm saying. But when I saw his tweet, it really made me mad enough to where I need to talk about it, because it's like, okay, man, whatever. So, of course, y'all going to see that tweet. But in the meantime, as we wait for everybody to come in, and I see people coming in now, if you haven't already, we have an app, African Diaspora News Channel app, and you can go to your Play Store on your phone and download that. Again, if you haven't already, it is something that we have made for us, by us, to deliver the news and information that you can use the way we need to do it, right? You will not see this type of stuff in detail that we go in on CBS, NBC, or any of the other mainstream medias. And to be honest with you, ain't going to see it on a lot of other places where they say they talk about Black issues. They'll gloss over it, but they ain't going to go deep into the weeds, right? So that's what we do here. And of course, you'll see more of that on the app. So we need you to go on over there if you haven't already, and please do that. So yesterday, as I was on my live, I didn't know that there was a tornado going on. Now, as I can look out my window here, I saw the weather was kind of funky, and I'm like, oh, okay, it was lightning and stuff. So when I got off, I, start to see the news and stuff. I'm like, there's a tornado not too far from me, right? And it tore up some things, trees and all kinds of stuff. And then I thought, you know what, let me go on. Because there was a lot of wealth and just upward mobility going on there. That's, a magnificent feat, especially what she went through. So, of course, you guys have heard a lot by now about the Tulsa race massacre that took place in 1921, where a Black teenager by the name of Dick Rowland was accused of doing the unthinkable, if you will, to a white woman who was in an elevator. So he was seen running from that elevator. And, of course, word spread, and the local newspaper there, they hyped it up, right? Something that it totally wasn't. So, of course, a white mob nearby was like, oh, word. Okay, I think that's our reason to go up into Tulsa, right? Greenwood, to be exact.
Yeah, because that's an excuse that they needed.
Things up. Now, of course, it was also known as Black Wall Street, and it was dubbed that by Booker T. Washington.
And the reason I'm saying it was an excuse, because when you look into it, when you research it, the girl told the sheriff, I think it was a sheriff. She told the authorities, I'll just leave it at that he didn't do nothing. She said it several times, but they ignored it because, again, that's the excuse they needed to get rid of these uppity Negroes.
Because there was a lot of wealth and just upward mobility going on there. It was kind of seen like as the beacon of Black towns during that time. Of course, we know there was a copious amount of Black towns and communities and neighborhoods. And of course, they experienced massacres as well. But nevertheless, the white mob was like, okay, well, we need to go on up in there and get this guy. So they did get him. But then there was the Black people there at Greenwood was like, y'all not about to be snatching up ours, and because what they would be doing to them back then. So of course they showed up to the jail, and they was like, "Hey, you need to let him go." And then of course y'all know what happened from that point. Over 18 hours, they say, from May 31st to the 1st of June, there was about 35 blocks of Black neighborhood completely destroyed. Over 1,200 homes were burnt down to the ground. It is said that about 300 people, some say it was more, were killed during that massacre, most of them Black. Also during that time, the National Guards was called out by the president at the time. And yeah, they dropped some bombs there in Tulsa. It said that was the first time in American history that United States government dropped bombs on its own people, Black people, right? And of course, we know that in 1985, it was done again during the MOVE incident there in Philadelphia. But nevertheless, and shortly after that, about 6,000 Black residents there in Greenwood were put into what they call internment camps. And they needed permission from other white people to leave and all this other stuff. It was just a mess. So, of course, we know that a lot of them left and never went back. So with that, all of their stuff, the hospitals, the schools, the churches, the businesses, you name it, just completely gone. They never were able to recoup that stuff. In fact, the insurance companies, I was like, I don't know what y'all want us to do. So the insurance companies didn't, honor their insurance claims on any of the stuff. So we also know that with that, the, white residents got most of that stuff. I think there's only like one building still standing there to this day. And so you might be able to go to Tulsa, Greenwood, and see a plaque, basically commemorating, if that's even a thing, right? What happened there in Greenwood. So nevertheless, from that, and unfortunately, there's only one survivor left now, Leslie Randall to be exact. But the three survivors, so was Mother Viola, Mother Leslie, and then her brother Hughes, her brother being Viola. They were the only survivors left. And so often they would go before like Congress and things like that and say, hey, for lack of better words, y'all need to run us our money because we never got what was stolen from us. So they were there and they remember. So I actually want to show y'all.
And that's a good point to be made because, you hear these people that are in opposition. They say, well, you're not giving any handouts. No. We want what was stolen, what was destroyed, that was ours. We want to be recompensed. All right.
A short video of Mother Ford Fletcher speaking to a House committee in regards to what happened and why she's there. So here we go.
Survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre. 2 weeks ago, I celebrated my 107th birthday. Today, I'm visiting Washington, D.C. for the first time in my life. I'm here seeking justice, and I'm asking my country to acknowledge what happened in Tulsa in 1921. The night of the massacre, I was awakened by my family. My parents and 5 siblings were there. I was told we had to leave, and that was it. I will never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see Black men being shot, Black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire. I still see Black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams. I have lived through the massacre every day. Our country may forget this history, but I cannot. I will not, and other survivors do not, and our descendants do not.
Okay, so at the time, I believe she was 107 years old. Again, she unfortunately passed away. She was up there in age. And like I said, to just experience something like that and live to tell about it. Now, she also wrote a book with her grandson that says, please do not bury my story. So she wanted everybody, and I imagine still wants everybody to know that, hey, this happened to us, because they said, in fact, that nobody talked about the massacre that took place there in Tulsa for 50 years, right? The newspapers wouldn't talk about it. It was just buried. And then eventually some of the survivors was like, hey, you know what? I know people don't know really, and nobody's talking about it, but this happened to us. And so from that point, again, 50 years later, they started to talk about it. And even today, you'll bump into people who are like, I didn't know anything about that. There was some show that was on HBO with Regina King. I can't think of the name of it, but they talked about the Tulsa massacres and all that. And a lot of people, and especially people who look like us, was like, I had no idea. And it's like, okay. So nevertheless, they also said that there's a lot of bodies unaccounted for. So they're, I guess, throughout time have been finding unmarked graves in that area, because they just threw bodies everywhere. Didn't care who they were or anything like that. So, of course, we know that the Oklahoma Supreme Court last year I was like, yeah, I know y'all been asking, but we're going to dismiss the case, right? Yeah. And then the Civil Rights Department also, the government said, we're not going to continue to go down that road. Now the mayor now in Tulsa was like, okay, well, let's entertain $100 million, bills.
And I do believe I saw a little docu-series about that not long ago, and I believe the mayor at the time of that program was a JOO, all right, which was calling for all this, shit that ultimately they're going to profit off of. That's the way they like to do it.
Legislation that would kind of, study and go toward education and, all the stuff. Ain't no money on it, right? To like giving to the descendants or anybody like that. It's just the same old hogwash. All right. So with that, I saw this tweet from President Barack Obama yesterday, and he says, as a survivor of the Tulsa race massacre, Viola Fletcher bravely shared her story so that we never forget this painful part of our history. Michelle and I are grateful for her lifelong work to advance civil rights and send our love to her family. Now, homie, she didn't need you to send no love to her family. I'm sure she had a lot of that shit. What she needed you to do was send the check. But of course, we know that Barack Obama was not interested in giving not only Mother Fletcher or anybody else from Tulsa a check. He wasn't interested in giving us a check. Now, some of y'all might be saying, well, how do you know that, Demetra? Well, I'm glad you asked. I took the liberty and strung some stuff together of him and other people who knew he wasn't interested in reparations for descendants of slavery, saying just that. So here we go.
I think the reparations we need right here in South Carolina is investment, for example, in our schools. I did a town
Who's doing all the clapping?
In Florence, South Carolina, in an area called the Corridor of Shame. They've got buildings that students are trying to learn in that were built right after the Civil War.
This is who
we've
you
got teachers who are not trained to teach the subjects they're teaching in, high dropout rates. We've got to understand that there are corridors of shame all across the country. And if we make the investments and understand that those are our children, that's the kind of reparations that are really going to make a difference.
I find myself once again in the same position as President Obama. We both oppose reparations, and we both are the descendants of slaveholders.
I think he was a little reluctant to get into it too much because his critics would think that this is self-serving, that it's not worthwhile for him to lend his weight into it. But
theoretically, are reparations justified? The answer is yes. There's not much question, right? That the wealth of this country, the power of this country, was built in significant part, not exclusively, maybe not even the majority of it, but a large portion of it was built on the backs of slaves. What I saw during my presidency was that the politics of white resistance and resentment, the talk of welfare queens and the talk of the undeserving poor and the backlash against affirmative action, all that made the prospect of actually proposing any kind of coherent, meaningful reparations program struck me as politically not only a non-starter, but potentially counterproductive.
All right, so let's take him down. So, of course, that was a compilation of him and other people who knew he wasn't for the reparations of descendants of slavery. So the first one was when he was running for president in 2008. And everybody on there was asked about reparations, and different people had different answers, but his was most interesting, right? Because he's the Black president, or he was trying to be at the time, and he was like, well, how about some stuff for schools? Because when I think about South Carolina and the schools, so basically, as a hell no, he ain't trying to give no, descendants of slavery no check. That's kind of what I heard him say, right? And then of course you saw Senator Mitch McConnell, who often freezes on television. He basically was saying, hey, you see how you did that? We both, like me and Obama, we both disagree with reparations. In fact, we both are descendants of slave owners. It's like, wow.
There you go.
So even he knew that. Then,
all right, so that's that. Let's go to this one, because something you should be aware of what's happening now, having to do with AI and our history.
What up, my beautiful African family? This is your main man, Theo Weeja, with African Diaspora News, and we are in some new dangerous territory when it comes to AI and its capabilities and the unregulated social consequences of it going unchecked. And of all the things that I kind of feared when AI was coming online that it might influence, I was not ready for AI to influence Black history and our understanding of our past. This one hit me in a blind spot right here. But the fact is, there's a phenomenon online called AI slop. I don't know if you heard this term AI slop, but you're about to learn today. AI slop is basically, it's garbage, it's trash. It's invented either by AI content creators or sometimes self-generated by AI itself. And it literally is clickbait, or it is view-generating content either for profit or for likes and attention and followers. And it has ventured into this gaping hole that we have when it comes to Black history. AI can map legitimate stories of Black history. It can read books. It can create its own narratives that are akin to very, very detailed fan fiction. And not only that, coupled with AI's ability to generate images that look almost identical to authentic photographs from the past or visions from the future, you can't tell what's what these days. And now it has gone into some sacred territory when it comes to Black history. Now, there are a few sites on YouTube that are really getting out of hand with this AI slop Black history content, but the main one that's causing a lot of confusion is a site called the Dark Epoch Tales. Dark Epoch Tales is phenomenal, visually speaking, and a narrative that it creates from AI. As somebody who's actually read slave narratives, as somebody who actually has delved into what the actual content of hidden history looks like, this stuff is almost indistinguishable. But take a look at this site. I mean, look at these photographs. The AI has been able to literally regenerate the nuances of those black and white sepia tone photographs that are from the 1800s. Eye shine, wrinkles in the paper, hairstyles, clothes, you name it. It can make it look as authentic as anything to the untrained eye. And the only thing that gave it away to me was the clarity. But then again, you can take a real black and white photo from the 1800s and make it even clearer. But what's most scary about this is if you really delve into these tales on Dark Epoch Times, I mean, goodness gracious, they sound like real narratives. I mean, from the names of the people to locations, they got dates, they got real places that exist actually in the world, in America. It is unbelievable how convincing this stuff actually can be. Now, my first thought was, isn't this kind of stuff illegal? Like, how can they do this? Well, if you look at a site like this, right, right in the description, it tells you that this is for entertainment purposes only. But here's the problem. If you're trying to YouTube and Google and find Black history stuff, this will pop up and YouTube ain't stopping it. So are people falling for this? Oh, yes, they are. Hook, line, and sinker. Even though it says right there at the top of the page, this is entertainment purposes only. This isn't real. Even the YouTube on your phone will give you a notification that says that this is false content. But go to the comments section. Go on and read these comments, and you will find people literally like, "Oh my God, I never knew I never knew something like this happened." They'll say, "This is related to my family. My family has this last name, this, that, and the third." And it goes on and on and on. These kind of
That's going to be it, just to give you, inform you what's been going on. They're going to great lengths to try to cause more confusion, messing with our history once again. I mean, it just they just can't stop, So I'm gonna end it there. Again, these 3 videos. The first 2 dealing with one of the last survivors of the Tulsa race massacre. All right, passed away, and last year they said, the Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to deal with it, so they struck it down. It's like, what did you expect? That's why I read those scriptures. This is who you're dealing with. But our reparations are going to come with what? Revelation 13 and 10, right? Let's get that, and I'll close it out. All right, that's what we look forward to, because there ain't going to be no laws or anything like that to save you. You're not going to be in any power. You're not going to have any power. All right. Even worse than what we're going through ourselves. All right. Let's go. I went too far. Hold on. This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 10. It says, "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints." The only saints are the Israelites. Period. All right. So this is our true reparation. All right. Yeah. This devil's going down. He knows it. Oh, he getting ready to get ill, as they used to say. So that's what to expect. This place got to go, and it is. So with that, I hope whoever views this video has been edified. All right. That's what we do here at Great Millstone. All right. And to remind you once again, the times that we're in, even more so for the season that we're in, keep that head on a swivel, because, again, these holiday seasons like this one, people get more depressed. All right. That's been known throughout the years. All right. And we know that them folks are experiencing, a lot of them for the first time, reality. All right. And they can't deal with it. The economy such as it is, so you don't know. As someone said years ago that I knew, he called them evil mites. He said that these evil motherfuckers will do anything, and that's why you need to be circumspect out here. So with that, until the next video, hey, shalom.